Before the show starts, drop a comment below with where you're watching from, then sit back, relax, and get ready for some chilling stories. I never thought silence could be so loud. It was Friday night, and I was finally alone for the weekend. My parents were out of town visiting my aunt in Chicago, leaving me to look after our apartment in the city. We lived on the 18th floor of a high-rise, top floor, great view, no neighbors above. I had snacks, my PS5, and no obligations. Perfect setup for a chill weekend. But that first night, something felt off. I remember getting into bed around 1:30 a.m., lights out, phone on silent. At about 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by this dull thudding sound, like someone knocking on the ceiling. I lay there frozen, staring up at the white plaster above me, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. I told myself it was probably the building creaking, or maybe water pipes. Old buildings do that, right? I turned over and forced myself back to sleep. The next morning, I tried to brush it off. I even Googled apartment ceiling noises, and ended up reading about everything from raccoons to expanding metal. Whatever it was, I figured it wasn't serious. I didn't even mention it to my parents when they called to check in. No need to worry them over some random noise. Saturday night came, and everything was chill again, until 3 a.m., right on time. This time it was louder, more intentional, like someone knocking in a pattern. I turned my bedside lamp on and sat up, listening hard. Then I heard it, my name. Not screamed, not even spoken out loud, just whispered, from above. Zachary. I swear I felt every single hair on my body stand up. I was wide awake now, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. There was no attic above us, no upstairs neighbor. That was the roof, and access was restricted to maintenance only. I grabbed the flashlight from my drawer and did a walkthrough of the apartment. Everything seemed normal. The door was locked. All windows were locked. Nothing seemed out of place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. That night I barely slept. Every tiny creak, every gust of wind made me flinch. By Sunday morning, I was spiraling. I downloaded a sound recording app and set it up to capture audio from midnight to 6 a.m. If something was happening while I slept, I wanted proof. That night, I tried to act normal, cooked dinner, watched a movie, FaceTimed a friend. I even joked about the ceiling noises, calling it my ghost upstairs. But I wasn't laughing when 3 a.m. hit and I heard the thudding again. I didn't get up. I just laid there, eyes wide open, gripping the blanket and listening. No whisper this time, just the sound of someone, or something, moving around right above me. It lasted about 10 minutes, then silence again. The next morning, I reviewed the audio. For the first 3 hours, it was quiet, occasional car noise from outside, my breathing. Then around 3:04 a.m., the thud started. And then footsteps, like heavy boots walking slowly. Not from above, but from inside the apartment. The living room, then the hallway, then my room, and then voices. 2 of them, whispering. Couldn't make out the words, but I could clearly hear them. A few seconds of silence, and then a laugh. Low, raspy, and right next to the mic. I dropped my phone and jumped back, my hands shaking. I played it again. It was all there, not just in my head. I tore through the apartment, searching for anything I might have missed. I moved furniture, opened every cabinet, checked the closets, under the bed, even behind the fridge. Then, in the hallway, I noticed something strange. The built-in wall cabinet that we never really used had scratch marks along its side, faint but there. I opened it and saw a small panel in the back. A maintenance panel I'd never seen before. I yanked it open, and behind it was empty darkness. A crawl space, barely wide enough for a person to move through. And it reeked, like sweat and mold and something sour. I backed away, heart in my throat. Someone had been using that space. Someone who knew the layout of the building. Someone who could move around unnoticed. And they were still coming in at night. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in the living room with every single light on, gripping the aluminum baseball bat I kept from high school. My phone was fully charged, 911 on speed dial, and my eyes locked on that dark opening behind the cabinet like it could blink. By morning, I was a mess. My head was pounding, my body aching from staying tense all night. I called building management and reported the crawl space. The woman on the line sounded confused, said that space was only supposed to be for wiring access. She promised to send someone the next day. The next day? I didn't have time to wait. I couldn't leave the apartment either. What if whoever was using that space came out while I was gone? I had this sick feeling in my gut that if I walked out the front door, they'd come crawling out and disappear before anyone ever believed me. So, I got creative. I took every pot, pan, and metal spoon in the kitchen and rigged them up like a tripwire right outside the crawlspace entrance. I used fishing line and chairs to make sure if anyone stepped through, they'd knock the whole setup down and make enough noise to wake the dead. I even tied a little bell from my bike onto one of the strings. Then I waited. Sunday night passed in near silence. 2:50 a.m. 2:55. I was practically vibrating in my seat. The lights were off this time, and I was watching the crawl space from the dining room, hidden behind the island counter. At exactly 3:01 a.m., the bell jingled. I froze. Then, crash, the whole setup went off. Pots banging, spoons clattering, metal hitting tile. I jumped up, heart hammering, and pointed my flashlight toward the sound. There he was, half emerged from the crawl space, frozen like a rat caught in a trap. His skin was filthy, smeared with black grime, and he was wearing what looked like an old maintenance uniform from the building, stained, faded, and about 2 sizes too big. His hair was long, wild, and matted to his face, which was twisted into this wide, bizarre grin like he thought the whole thing was hilarious. "You weren't supposed to find it," he whispered. I didn't wait. I ran, bolted out the door, down the hallway, slammed my hand against every apartment door I passed until someone opened up and called the police. When they arrived, the guy was gone, but the crawl space had been used for months. There were food wrappers, bottles, blankets, even photos. Some of me sitting on the couch, me sleeping, one of me brushing my teeth, taken from the bathroom mirror. That's how I found out there were tiny holes drilled through the walls into different rooms. He had been watching me, every night, every moment. Turned out he was a former maintenance worker who got fired over a year ago after being caught stealing. But he knew the ins and outs of the building, including the crawl spaces that connected units from the utility system. He'd been living in them on and off since losing his job, moving between apartments, watching tenants, slipping in and out without a trace. The police eventually caught him the next week in a neighboring unit, hiding behind a dryer in another crawl space. I haven't stayed in that apartment since. My parents moved out 2 months later, and I still don't sleep without lights on. It's the not knowing that messes with your head the most. The fact that while I was brushing my teeth, cooking dinner, laying in bed, he was there, just inches away, in the walls, smiling. Working from home sounded like a dream at first. No commute, no distractions, no small talk. Just me, my laptop, and an endless supply of coffee. But no one tells you how loud the silence can get, especially when you live alone, out in the middle of nowhere. It started on a Tuesday night. I was up late finishing a translation job for a client in Europe. Around 11:40 p.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the backyard camera. I live in a 1-story house surrounded by trees, so the cameras help me feel less isolated. But when I checked the feed, there was nothing. Just the usual, dark trees swaying in the wind, porch light flickering a little. Probably a bird, or a raccoon. I dismissed it, but then it happened again, and again, for more times between midnight and 2 a.m. Always the same, notification I'd check, nothing there. By the 4th alert, I turned off the notifications. I told myself it was a spider on the lens or a bug triggering the sensor. Still, I couldn't shake the weird tight feeling in my chest. Wednesday night, same thing. This time, I left the live feed on my second monitor while I worked, just to keep an eye on it. At 12:13 a.m., movement again. And this time, I saw something. Not clearly, just a flicker, like someone walking past the far end of the yard, where the trees are thicker. Too fast to be sure. Too slow to dismiss. I froze. Rewound the footage. Nothing definitive. Could have been the wind, I guess. But my gut said otherwise. Thursday, I didn't wait around. I made sure every door and window was locked before sundown. Closed all the blinds. I even slid a chair under the front doorknob like they do in movies. Just in case. At 2:21 a.m., another motion alert. This time, when I looked, there was no flicker. No wind. Just a man. Standing in the middle of my backyard. Not moving. Just standing. Facing the house. I don't think I've ever moved faster in my life. I grabbed my phone and ducked behind the kitchen island, hard in my throat. I called 911, whispering to the operator like I was in a horror movie. By the time 2 officers arrived and swept the yard with flashlights, he was gone. They found footprints. Big ones. Leading in from the trees, but none leading back out. They chalked it up to a prowler, told me to keep my lights on, lock the doors, and call if anything else happened. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Friday. I installed extra locks. Moved a small dresser in front of the back door. I even set up one of those cheap motion sensors you can stick to the wall. The kind that dings whenever someone passes by. I didn't care if it went off every 5 minutes. I just wanted to know. At 3:02 a.m., it dinged. And then again. And again. I turned on the camera feed. Nothing. Until I rewound. That's when I saw it. The backyard camera caught the man again, not standing still this time. He walked right up to the door and opened it. That was the moment I realized something worse. He never left. He wasn't showing up every night. He had already gotten inside. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I stared at the footage over and over, hoping I'd somehow misinterpreted it. But no, there he was walking calmly to the back door, reaching for the handle and slipping inside. No signs of struggle. No hesitation, like he knew exactly where to go. I ran through the house, checking every closet, every room, every cabinet. Nothing, but I couldn't ignore what I'd seen. He'd come in, and there was no footage of him leaving. I ended up locking myself in the guest bedroom. It was the only room with a small bathroom attached, and a window wide enough to escape through if I needed to. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen before barricading the door with a chair and a laundry basket filled with books. Not exactly top-tier defense, but it made me feel a little less helpless. I stayed up the whole night, barely blinking, knife in one hand, phone in the other. I kept refreshing the camera feeds. Still nothing. Still no sign of him leaving. And then I heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps in the hallway. Inside. I held my breath so long I almost passed out. The steps paused just outside the guest room door. I could hear breathing. Slow, quiet, but unmistakably human. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just sat there, knife clenched, praying I was wrong. Then the doorknob turned slowly. It didn't open, thank God. I'd wedged the chair tightly underneath it. The knob jiggled once, then silence. I waited hours. Eventually the sun came up. I still didn't leave the room. Instead, I did something stupid, or maybe it saved me. I sent a voice message to my brother, whispering where I was, what was happening, begging him to call the police again. And then, I heard it, my voice, coming from down the hall. The message I had just sent was playing out loud from another device inside my house. He'd heard me. He was listening. I bolted. I climbed out the bathroom window barefoot, cut my leg on the way down, and sprinted to the neighbor's house 2 lots over. I didn't even look back. I just banged on their door until they answered, terrified, and called the cops for me. This time, they didn't have to search long. The man was still in my house, hiding in the attic access above the hallway. He had a modified tablet with access to my security system. He'd mirrored my app and could see everything I was seeing. He knew when I was checking the cameras, knew when I was sleeping. He'd been inside the house for at least 3 days. He'd been watching me live my life, 1 room away. They said he used to live in the area, had worked in home automation systems before going off the grid. My guess? He picked me because I lived alone. Because I trusted the tech. Because I wouldn't notice the cameras weren't really protecting me. They were giving him front row access. He's in custody now, but I still can't stay in that house. I can't even look at a security camera the same way anymore. Sometimes at night, I still hear the sound of that voice message, my voice, echoing back at me from the dark. My house has always been a little creepy. It's this old, creaky place on the edge of a forest in rural Oregon. Not like Haunted Mansion creepy, just too quiet. Too many shadows. The kind of place where every breeze sounds like a whisper and every branch tapping the window feels like a warning. So when my mom told me she'd be gone for a 3-day business trip and I'd have the house to myself, I pretended to be excited. But deep down, I wasn't. I don't like being alone out here, especially not at night. The first night, everything was fine until around 9:17 p.m. I remember the time exactly because I looked at the microwave clock just before it happened. I was in the kitchen grabbing a soda when I heard it, this low, rhythmic thumping coming from the woods behind the house. Not an animal, not wind. It had a beat to it, like footsteps, slow, deliberate, distant. I froze, holding the fridge door open longer than I should have. Then it stopped. I shrugged it off. Probably a deer, I told myself, or maybe branches falling. I mean, it's the forest. It makes noise. Still, I locked every window and double-checked the back door before going to bed. Night 2, 9:17 p.m. Again. Same rhythm, same direction, the woods. But this time I went to the window, didn't turn the light on, just peeked through the blinds. And I swear I saw something. It wasn't clear, just a shape, a tall, narrow figure standing just beyond the tree-line. Not moving, just watching. I blinked. Gone. I rubbed my eyes and told myself it was nothing. My imagination. Shadows. A trick of the moonlight. But it wasn't. The third night was worse. By then, I'd started recording. I used an old camcorder and pointed it out the back window, trying to catch whatever was out there. I even set an alarm for 9:15 just to be ready. At exactly 9:17, the noise came again. Louder. Closer. I hit record and pressed my face to the glass. And this time I saw it clearly. A man, or something like a man, standing motionless between the trees. He wasn't holding a flashlight. He wasn't wearing reflective gear. Just a dark silhouette with arms too long and legs too stiff. I shined my flashlight through the window, and in that exact instant, the figure vanished. Not ran, not ducked, just gone. The next morning, I checked the backyard and found something scratched into the wood of the old shed door. A circle with a jagged line running through it, like a lightning bolt piercing an eye. I'd never seen it before, and I knew every inch of that shed. I stood there staring at that strange symbol for what felt like forever. It wasn't just scratched in. It was carved deep, like someone had spent serious time pressing into the old wood. I touched it, and the grooves were still fresh. Not older weather damage. This had been made recently, probably the night before. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just some local kids messing around. Maybe someone thought it'd be funny to freak me out. But that would have meant they'd gotten into my backyard, past the fence, past the locked gate, and they would have had to know I was alone. The camcorder footage didn't help. I played it back, hoping for proof, hoping it'd show the figure, clear as day, standing out there. But instead, it just showed static around the exact time the thumping started. The image glitched for almost 5 minutes straight, just long enough for the figure to appear and disappear, before going back to normal. Everything after that looked fine, like something didn't want to be recorded. I tried to call my mom that afternoon, but it went straight to voicemail. Bad reception, she'd said before she left. Nothing new. I texted her instead, saying everything was fine. Lie number 1. That night, I didn't wait for 9:17. I spent hours pacing, checking windows, even moving a chair to block the back door. I armed myself with the fire poker from the fireplace and waited. At 9:16, the power cut out. Lights, Wi-Fi, phone charger, everything. Total silence. My phone buzzed once. One new photo received. No message, just the image. It was a picture of me, sitting in the living room, taken from outside the window, less than 10 feet away. I dropped the phone. The window was behind me. I turned so fast I nearly fell. But there was nothing there now, just darkness beyond the glass. My own pale reflection staring back at me. That was when I saw it again. The symbol. Now it was drawn, in ashes, on the wooden floor in the hallway. Same size, same pattern. I didn't hear anything enter the house. Nothing broken. No footsteps. But it was inside now. I ran upstairs and locked myself in my room, heart racing so hard I could barely breathe. I wanted to call the cops, but my phone was dead. I was trapped. I didn't know what it was or what it wanted, but I knew it was coming closer each night. I remembered the attic. Our house had one of those old stone chimneys, wide enough for someone to crawl into. My mom always warned me not to mess around in there, but it was the only place I could hide where I'd hear someone coming before they reached me. So I climbed, dirty bricks scraping my arms, ash and dust clinging to my clothes. I wedged myself into the narrowest space I could find and stayed there for hours, barely moving, barely breathing. At some point, I must have blacked out. When I woke up, it was daylight, and I could hear my mom downstairs calling my name. I nearly fell trying to climb out. When I reached her, I couldn't even speak. I just pointed to the hallway where the ash symbol had been. It was gone. The police came later that day. They searched the property, asked questions, checked the shed, the attic, the forest. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of entry. No proof of anything. But they found something in the shed, hidden under a loose board in the floor. A box. Inside there were old papers, photographs, and sketches, all showing variations of that same symbol, dated back decades. One photo showed a group of people in black robes, standing near the tree line behind my house. Someone had written, "The Watchers of the Ninth Flame," on the back. The investigators said it looked like a local cult from the 80s, supposedly disbanded. Nothing serious. Urban legends, mostly. But I know what I saw. And every night since then, no matter where I go, no matter what time it is, I still wake up at exactly 9:17 p.m. And sometimes, just for a second, I hear it again.